everybody's coming in. So good morning, everyone. Good morning as you're coming into your next solutions masterclass or workshop today. So welcome. I'm just saying welcome a few times so that we get everybody to come in. And then we'll start on time and we will end on time because these we have respect for everyone, whether it be the speakers or all of you, to make sure that you're getting to your next workshop on time. So with that, I'm just going to really say hello to everyone and welcome everyone to today's CFO Masterclass Solution Workshop. The title of this program is Achieving Touchless AP Automation with RPA and Intelligent Data Capture. My name is Angela Tice, and I am with the CFO Leadership Council with the team here. So I'm just going to be facilitating today's workshop. So quickly, I'm going to go through some housekeeping. The one thing I do want everyone to keep in mind is that we do want it to be interactive. We love your questions. So at any time when you're thinking about asking a question, please do, and we will get to them. So just as you're thinking about them, please add them. And this way we can get to your questions during our conversation today. The solution workshops, all of them today are being kept to the 50 minutes exactly. So we will have a hard stop at that 50 minutes. This is to respect your time and allow those of you attending other workshops the time to reconnect and get settled. So you're ready for the next conversation. This session does qualify for 1 CPE. So if you need to get CPE today, please be sure to answer all of the polling questions and we will put them up on the screen. So definitely keep your eyes on the screen as you're listening to our wonderful speakers today. So again, just make sure that you answer all of the polling questions. That's really it for the housekeeping. I want to really get into this conversation. So Eduardo, I'm actually going to just hand it over to you and you can start and introduce your team and get us going. How's that sound?
Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. Today, we're going to have a really good discussion about a very hot topic with Steve Rapier, who really helped me on all of my AP automation initiatives. He has a lot of experience achieving AP touchless automation, AP processing touchless automation for many organizations. I'm really glad to have him today. So that being said, I just wanted to get started and really talk about where we are. You know, after COVID-19, almost every organization is accelerating the adoption of automation in some sort of way, trying to move from the traditional back office, transactional-based manual processing to a more modernized digital back office. And, you know, this comes from having to work from home and really availability of labor to do this task and really trying to be more productive and efficient. 50% of organizations are now thinking about spending, you know, a lot of investment on RPA due to COVID, and mainly to try to achieve, you know, higher agility and productivity and scalability. As you know, maybe some organizations today are seeing a lower transactional volume that they used to see in the past, but they know that once we're over this, you're going to have to be able to scale, ramping up staff, and automation is a great way to achieve that. Well, you know, 63% of CFOs agree that they would like to see more analysis on their team and less transactional processing, and this is why we have a lot of these initiatives, you know, happening in many organizations, as well as one of the things that we know, you know, how long have you seen people doing AP processing, invoice processing for more than 5 years? The only people who are doing that have been doing it for 20. You know, it's harder and harder to find people who want to do this for the long haul. So the turnover is also killing organizations on trying to really keep the staff that is doing this work, and training and recruiting has become a significant expense of doing this transactional work and the nature of it. And this is why we thought this would be a great topic to talk today. You know, you have a lot of finance and accounting departments, you know, struggling around AP. And like I mentioned, you have a lot of manual labor, it's intensive. Then you have a lot of, you know, high turnover, like I was mentioning before, due to, you know, really people, you know, and younger people don't want to do this type of work anymore. And then as you're doing this manually, you tend to have a lot of backlog and you have really no visibility on what are your outstanding liabilities, and ends up with a accrual process at the end of the month that to try to really get visibility on what are they, and this is why I think this would be a great topic today, to really try to reduce your processing costs and try to get all the money that is being left on the table cleared out, and understanding a lot more visibility of your AP department. So with this being said, I just wanted to take some time to ask our first polling question, which is, what is the biggest pain point that you guys are trying to solve with AP automation? Is it freeing up your team for higher value activities? Is it reducing costs? Is it better accuracy, reducing invoice processing backlog, or really to get visibility to outstanding liabilities? A lot of organizations really tend to have a lot of struggles to really see how much do we actually owe and what's coming in. So please take your time to do this, and we'll see the results at the end.
Great, and I'm just gathering that information right now, and I'll share that information with everyone as soon as we give them just a couple of more seconds. And audience, I'll just ask you if you can answer the polling questions as quickly as possible. That would be great, because we have a lot to cover today, and we don't want to miss out on any of the information that the Oxys team is going to share with us. So just a couple more seconds, Enrique, and I'm going to hand it back to you. Okay, audience, I am going to end that poll, and I'll share that with everyone. Looks like 64% say freeing up team for higher value work, 18% say reducing costs, 9% better accuracy and controls, 9% say reduce invoice processing backlog, and nobody said anything about better visibility to outstanding liabilities. So there's your results.
And that's very interesting, because we see a lot of organizations that, of course, are trying to invest on AP automation specifically to do that. You don't want to have hours and hours on end of people just keying in data. It's better to just have people understanding and solving the biggest issues around the department, on making sure that the numbers are lining up correctly, and then what you're going to end up at the end of the month. The other things that it's kind of interesting to see that there's a lot of, we have seen in the past, a lot of people interested in seeing the outstanding liabilities issue, because as the volume grows, you have potentially hundreds of invoices, thousands of invoices that are out there that you don't really know where they should be coded. And a lot of organizations are seeing, hey, we're doing great against budget through the month, and then at the end there is a wave of a bunch of expenses that are become visible, and it's really hard to manage. So it's very interesting insight. So as we look at benchmarking, I think that none of us are alone on this, but how do you really benchmark against other departments? I think that a lot of the organizations that we work with and are starting the automation journey really tend to be on the bottom performer, or between medium bottom performers. Some are really low on their efficiency. And the whole idea with AP automation is not to get to the top performer. Top performer, you're talking about highly automated interactions with vendors such as Walmart, or really, really big organizations. But the idea is to try to be at the median level. And AP automation is one of the perfect ways to try to move your team, regardless of your size, into a much more efficient, and I would say, processing environment. And we're going to see how we can achieve that. So let's talk about what the top performers are doing to really make this happen. So one of the things they're doing is they're using automation. Most of them are finance oriented at the beginning. I would say that 80% of RPA, or automation initiatives, begin in the finance and accounting department. And most of them begin in AP, because it's you have a structured process, has its exceptions like any other process, but you can tackle a lot of the volume with automation. The other thing is that they're leveraging lower cost locations. In 3 years, CFOs expect that 44% of their finance workforce will be in a nearshore location, and 22% think is going to be in an offshore location. So this is also a way to lower your transaction processing and stop really focusing on your business, and don't have to be focusing on the transactional end by leveraging a partner or some lower cost location to do this piece of the work. And then they're trying to get to real-time analytics, and 89% of CFOs think that is going to be a key skill set that their team will need to have going forward, given that being that CFO that is just reporting numbers is no longer enough. You need to be a business partner that drives insights into the business and can provide actionable data to the business to really help it get to its goals and achieve its goals. So with this, I just wanted to ask the second polling question. Have you used benchmarks to evaluate the performance of your AP operations? Yes, I've used extensive benchmarking. Yes, I've used some in the past. No, but I would like to, and no, it's not something that I'm interested in.
So again, thanks for reading those out. And audience, again, if you would answer those quickly, I can report back the survey results. We love that you're right on it. So that's good. You're listening well. That's what these are all about, right? We know that you're listening, audience. That's a good thing. Okay, just a couple more seconds and I'll share that information with everyone. Okay, I'm gonna end that and I'll share that with you, Enrique. It looks like 0 said, yes, I've made extensive use of benchmarking. 41% say, yes, I've used it, but it's not been a major factor in my analysis. 59% no, but I would like to. And no one said, no, I don't see value in benchmarking, which makes total sense, right?
Yes, and I think it's pretty aligned with what we see. A lot of organizations have a sense that they're doing things as best as they can, but it's important to really try to understand what is the benchmark, what should be your cost per invoice, what should be your processing times, what should be your headcount associated with your department. Is really important to really see where you stand and where you stack. And of course, depending on how many invoices and volumes and relationships on vendors, benchmark isn't the only truth to being productive. But I think it's a really important measuring stick to know where are you against your competition, because this type of cost, if it's not being used here, budget is being used elsewhere to create competitive advantage, and it's important to make that happen. So this being said, let's continue with the topic. So invoice processing, of course, is one of the greatest pain points within finance and accounting. Accounts payable it's a procure to pay as a whole is a perfect place to start looking for automation, from vendor master maintenance to purchase order processing, all the way to payments and payment proposal creations, vendor reconciliations, creating statements, and month-end support activities. But of course, invoice receipt, indexing, and processing is one of the key transactional pain points, and this is why we wanted to focus on it today, because there is a large number of FTEs assigned to it. There is large of data management risk. You don't want to make mistakes. Duplicates can be costly, and having wrong matches if you're doing three-way match or processing invoices with mistakes is a major root cause of problems. And this is where automation can really help you not only reduce costs, increase cycle times, like faster cycle times, but also reduce a lot of the mistakes that are being made. If you're keying in hundreds of invoices every week, you're bound to make mistakes. It's just natural. So with that, we wanted to focus on our solution and how this solution is different. So there's a lot of IP vendor automation platforms out there. They do different things. Some of them are very specific to only provide a solution for accounts payable automation. Some of them are very ERP specific. Some of them are very expensive because they're meant for really large organizations, or they're meant to be involved in some specific systems. And then you have some of them that have a combination of technology and labor as a outsourcing model to get it done, which also creates some additional expense. And we just wanted to explain how the solution that we're trying to explain to you today is different. So how is it compared to the traditional AP processing and to our RPA Intelligent Data Capture Workflow solution? Is that timing and implementation costs at the beginning, they can be pretty similar. In some cases, some of the solutions that I meant, they have a really high operating cost, but their implementation cost is really low. And I would say that they're pretty similar. The difference is that the ongoing cost is much lower. It's much more flexible. It can be changed and adjusted fairly easily. And you can achieve a really high number of AP touchless automation. I want to make sure that we understand as Touchless API automation that it'll never be at 100% because we know the complexities and exceptions that are out there. But if you could get 60% of your invoices that you never see or anybody touches, I would say that would be great in any day for almost any organization. We have seen as high as 80%, and it will depend on the complexity of your environment. But one of the biggest things and one of the biggest differences is that both technologies that we're going to be showing you today, both Episoft, that's a intelligent data capture, and RPA in the UiPath, are technologies that can be used to automate many other processes. We're talking about technologies that are meant to interact with different applications, with different systems, and extract really any data from mortgage applications and information of any type of document. And in this case, it's being leveraged to use invoice data extraction. So that is a major differentiation. The automation platform that we're about to talk to you today can be used to automate any transactional based process. So the licensing costs can be leveraged to do many other things than just invoice processing. So with that, let's talk about the three technologies that we usually use when we do API automation. Episoft, that's our intelligent data capture extraction. This technology, and I think Steve is going, and Sean will do a great job of explaining, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time. But at a high level, it classifies, it intakes documents, it classifies them, it knows if it's a statement, if it's a letter, if it's an invoice, and separates all the invoices. So if you have several one PDF with several invoices in it, they don't have to have barcodes in the middle. They don't have to have blank pages in the middle. It just knows when an invoice starts and when it ends and separates them. So that is a great workload that is being taken off right out of the bat. And after that, it extracts the information from it. Once that information has been extracted, you're going to have two choices, right? You're either going to have the path of, hey, I'm only doing non-PO invoices. Almost there's clients of us that don't do three-way match. They don't have a PO process. And we have clients that every single invoice needs to be matched to the line level. And that's going to be a little bit of a differentiation on the complexity of implementation. But for the invoices that you don't need, that you do need a approval, let's say a non-PO invoice that requires to be approved and coded, you're going to have some type of workflow solution. In this case, we partner with Box, but it really can be any workflow solution that you would like to use. Or in some cases, we have implemented manual solutions based on email. We do not recommend those because you lose a lot of visibility and controls. But a workflow solution is going to really enable you to achieve a lot of the touchless API automation that we're looking for. So once those invoices are approved and coded, the non-PO, the data and the image is being passed on to UiPath. And UiPath, for the people who are not aware on the call, it's basically a robotics process automation platform. It mimics what a person is doing. It logs into your system with username and password. It moves into the transaction just like the person that is doing it today. There is no additional integrations with your applications or systems. So it's pretty simple to really get through the transaction and train it to do exactly what your process is required for the ERP that you're using today. So it goes in, logs in, and if it's a PO invoice, it will search for the PO. It will match it line by line based on the extraction done by Episoft. And if there is any exceptions, it will basically kick them out, send them for a person for them to review. If it's a non-PO, it's basically just entering the invoice, just like a regular invoice entry with the GL coding that was received from the workflow tool once the approver gave that information. So this being said, I wanted to share one of our case studies. It was a very successful case study. This was for a large healthcare client. I know some of the companies in the audience may not be as big, but this is not only meant for this type of volume. We have done it for companies that have 5,000 invoices a month. But in this case, this company had 40,000 invoices a month. It did some acquisitions and was going to go to 70,000 invoices a month. And we basically built a solution with Episoft and UiPath that enabled a 20-person team to reduce the processing time by half. So we were able to actually free up 50% of the team to do other tasks by implementing two processes, the invoice indexing and processing, which really got us to about 80% of the invoice volume to be processed automatically. And we were able to build with UiPath a manual EDI process where vendors that were really big were sending in their invoices with an Excel file that had all the data in it. And basically a robot is just going in and hitting processing. If you're big enough and you can have relationships in that process, you could potentially build a process like this that doesn't require your vendors to adjust to, changes that sometimes are very difficult to get. So after talking about this, I just wanted to get to our third polling question, which is, have you implemented intelligent OCR in your AP function? Are you evaluating the solution and are looking to get started in 2021? You're in process of piloting? Are you already implemented or nothing planned for now?
So Eduardo, I just launched that. So audience, if you can be sure to answer that quickly, we would appreciate that very much. And Eduardo, forgive me, I called you Enrique before because before this one, I was working with your coworker, Enrique. So forgive me, my mistake.
I know it. My second name is Enrique. My middle name.
You guys work closely together, and I work with you all the time. So I mistakenly did that. My apologies.
That's fine.
Okay, audience, just a couple more seconds, and we'll share that information with Eduardo and the rest of the team, as well as the rest of the audience. Okay.
Add something to that use case, if you don't mind.
Yep, go ahead.
So yeah, there were 20 plus people handling a volume that increased from what 40,000 to almost 80,000. Yet they didn't have to add any more FTEs to get the volume under control. They actually reduced it to a number of hours instead of a number of days. So my point to the audience is this: at the end of the day, if you're investing in an automated solution like this, you're going to end up on one or the other side of the line. One is you can handle all the volume you have today with half the amount of labor, or you can double the volume you have today without adding labor. That's really what it comes down to.
Very interesting insight, because that's exactly what we have seen. And, a lot of organizations try and get hung up on the idea of, how many invoices will I do 100% touchless? It's more important to understand that you're going to be spending about 50% of the time that you spend today doing that activity, because there's always going to be invoices with problems that usually take most of the time. And those are very difficult to get away from unless you truly go to an EDI solution, and it's really hard to push that on every vendor. So thanks for responding to the question. Really interesting. A lot of companies, I think there's a percentage of about 30% of companies that are in piloting or implementing something around it. So it's really interesting to see that. And then we have about 22% evaluating, half really not thinking about doing something around this. It'd be interesting to look at the solution as a potential going forward in 2021 and really seeing how this could potentially work for your environment. So this continuing, we actually wanted to make it a little bit practical. So we wanted to have Steve and Sean from Episoft really do a demo of this, and then I'll do a very simple demo of UiPath on how it's actually working. So you can actually see how it works. So with this, I just wanted to give the floor to Steve, and you can start talking. I'll go through the slide, and then I'll give the presentation to Sean for him to do the demo. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you, Laura. And Tom was bringing up a good question in chat. He said, as you build a new system, how is quality control tested in a firm? Fantastic question. And it's all part of the implementation process. It's understanding the use case and the business rules that need to be applied to the OCR. So very good. So this is our business process automation document flow. And at a high level, just think of this software as something that emulates that knowledge worker that's doing the data entry piece. We're collecting data from a number of different sources, digital images, but in the knowledge worker environment, they're just not keen in data. They understand the business rules that apply to all the invoices. A simple one would be something like, if the invoice is more than $10,000, I need to have a PO number. Well, in the manual data entry, that invoice is manually taken off the desk and moved to another queue where someone has to look at and go do some research. We can handle those things, those types of things in this business process with exception and validation. So we're in the capture piece here. It can be a scanner. Most people that are doing automated invoice processing, we're monitoring an email folder. And that's our first capture process. So once we capture, we go into image processing. We do some cleanup if necessary, start applying the OCR and ICR engines, and rotate the image if it needs to, eliminate blanks. And then we move into our classification piece. And this is a really strong suite for us. We have a patented machine learning engine that can actually tell the type of a document one from the other by using the content, the OCR results in the content. And basically, we build a bucket of words for a document type, and we compare OCR results to those databases as the documents presented into classification. So it's very, very, very accurate. Then we do the extraction. That's how do we find the data, looking for invoice number, vendor name, etc. We can do vendor lookup and make sure that the vendor is accurate. I was actually talking to a gentleman a couple of weeks ago. He's in the forensics accounting side of things, and he said, you'd be surprised how many phishing invoices come through a department, and the vendor's not even there. They don't have those kind of controls in place. Somebody gets a check where they never should have. So we've got extraction, we go into validation, run the business rules. We always look at confidence levels. Is the rule being confirmed, or is there a potential instance where maybe the OCR engine doesn't have the confidence to read a B as an 8 or an 8 as a B, something like that. So we're doing all these checks and balances, because as we export into the back end, in this case would be Box, we want to make sure that data is 100% accurate. All right, and with this, I think, Sean, are you ready with the demo?
I am.
There you are.
All ready to go.
Very good.
All right, thank you, Steve. Let me get my screen shared here. And just let me know when you can see my screen.
It's there.
Okay, thank you. All right, so hi everyone. Thanks for having us today. My name is Sean Reed. I'll be here to give you a little demonstration of an invoice processing solution that we put together using Transact and UiPath. So as Eduardo and Steve showed on the previous slides, there's a number of different ways we can actually handle documents like this. Transact itself can be used to monitor an email inbox and grab documents along the way and process them accordingly. Or you could have an RPA tool like UiPath monitor an inbox and then feed the documents into Transact. So that's actually the scenario that we're going to use today in this demonstration. So I'll just outline the whole demonstration first real quickly before I start anything, just so you sort of understand where we're going here. What I'm going to do is sort of approximate an AP process for a small company where an individual sends a group of invoices to the company. The AP solution will then pick up those documents or the invoices from the email system, process the documents. If there are any issues with any of the extraction for any of those invoices, it's going to send an email back to the user or back to an individual user here to say, hey, there's an issue with some of these documents, please check it out. The user can go in, address those issues, and then move the documents on the way to the rest of the workflow, where we have a UiPath process here that is going to take that information with the documents and metadata and show us how that information can be inserted into just sort of a fake ERP system that we have on this demo environment. So let me go ahead and start here. So on this environment, I've just got a little email client up here. I'm going to go ahead and generate an email. I'm going to send this off to the AP department at my company. And I'm going to go ahead and attach a couple of documents. These are just some TIFF images that represent some invoices that I've scanned in. But as I said, or as I'm sure Steve said before in the previous slide, we could take this information from a scanner. We could take it from an API call, mobile device, any number of ways. So let me go ahead and just put a little subject in here. Please process these invoices, and I will send that off. Now, what's going to happen behind the scenes now is the information or that email will then go off to the email inbox. UiPath will be monitoring that email inbox, looking for new documents that come in. When something comes in, we've got a number of UiPath activities that are available to transact. You can actually get those from the UiPath marketplace. So this UiPath process will then grab those documents, push them into a batch class that we already have configured within Transact, and then those documents will start to be processed. Now, as you see right here, you can see how quickly those images actually came in. I got a pop-up down here, just telling me that I've got an email message I want to check out. Here it is. It came in from Mr. Robot, cute little name we've got for the demo here. And it's just saying that we've got a batch of invoices that are ready to have some quality checking done. So now I can just click on this link and it'll take me directly to this particular batch. Now, let me talk a little bit about this overall interface first. So we have a couple of different exception handling interfaces within Transact. One of them allows for a human operator to step in and look at any kinds of issues that may have occurred with the classification process. So that classification process is where we determine, is this an invoice? Is it a credit memo? Is it a bill of lading? Things like that. So if the system has any issues determining what a document type is, it can stop in that interface, which we call the review interface. Now these documents, they are all just plain invoices. So the system had no issue identifying what they were. So they worked their way through the overall Transact workflow, and they got into the extraction process. Now, the extraction process is obviously where we extract the metadata from these documents. So we've got a number of different fields that we're trying to capture here, very straightforward invoice-related fields. But at a high level, let me just describe the interface here. So off on the left-hand side, we've got a number of different logical documents that I like to call them. So if you remember, what I dragged in was just a handful of straight TIFF images. That also could have been, say, a multi-page PDF file that was generated if you just put a whole stack of paper into a scanner. Now, the system took those documents, broke them apart, realized that, okay, doc 1 is an invoice, doc 2 is an invoice, and so on and so on. Then we started to actually extract all the metadata from these documents. Now you'll see here that document 1 actually has a white background and a very skinny green bar on the left-hand side. And that indicates to the user that there's really nothing to look at here. So the system achieved all of the confidence scores, the confidence thresholds that we wanted it to in the extraction process. Now document 2 here, you'll see that it has focus right now, and it automatically got focus when I opened this batch up, because the system is going to automatically direct your attention or the user's attention to the first document that requires some assistance. So that this document now is being indicated by the fact that it has focus. And if I click away from it, you'll see that it also has a red background and a very wide red bar. So we're not relying solely on color here. That's obviously not a good thing, but we've got some other indicators as well, like the width of the bars on the left-hand side. So a skinny green bar is good. A wide red bar means this needs your attention. Now on the center panel here, we've got the list of different index fields that we're trying to extract. And we've got also some different colors and some different usability things here. So at the very top, we've got some information about the vendor. And you can see that these fields are read-only right now. So I can click in them, but nothing really happens. And the reason why these are all read-only fields is because these are fields we really don't want the user to edit. So these are fields that are coming from basically a lookup table. We refer to this as a fuzzy database lookup. And very often, I think just about every time in our AP projects, we end up putting together what we call just a vendor lookup table. Sometimes we can go directly against your ERP system. You could generate a view that contains all the information about your different vendors. And really everything else that's here is just sort of to help the user understand who this vendor is. But the really important thing here is the vendor number, because this vendor number is going to allow us to tie this particular invoice to a specific vendor in our ERP system. So all this other information here is just fluff to really let the user know that, hey, this is really the correct vendor. And if I want to look at it, I can compare this information against the invoice as well. But the vendor number is really all that we need. Now, some other fields that we have here, you'll notice we've got some blank fields here that have a white background. We've got some blank fields that have a red background. And when I opened this document up, initially, focus was immediately in the first field that required my attention. Now, We do have PO number as a field here. None of the invoices in this demo have POs, so we're not really using that today. But that's the reason why it's white. So this is an optional field for us. We can put what we call validation rules in place that will say that certain fields are required, certain fields are optional, and we can even go to the point of saying that certain fields are required and they have to have a specific pattern that they follow. So in this case, we're going to put focus immediately in the invoice number because even though a PO number is optional, an invoice number definitely is not. Now in this document, you can see that somebody spilled some coffee before this document got into the scanner and the invoice number is partially obscured. So that's the reason why the system really wasn't able to extract that information correctly. Now, as a human, I can zoom in a little bit, take a look at that number and clearly see that, that it is a 7322. So you'll notice as soon as I get to 4 digits here, that field is automatically going to go from red to white and that little pop-up message goes away. Now, this is kind of an arbitrary validation rule that we have in place because invoice numbers are obviously all over the place. Every vendor has their own format, but this is a good example of how we can put together a validation rule to help the system, help the user make sure that what they're doing is correct. Now, in this case, now that I've addressed that particular issue, I can just hit the validate button. And you'll see that it automatically moves focus down to the next field here, which requires my attention. And that field is just the amount field. Now, for some reason, this amount field didn't really come in with a very high degree of confidence. So we've got a relatively high confidence threshold that we're trying to meet here. And we've done this, frankly, for the purposes of the demo. We want to be able to show that if we have a high confidence score, maybe a number that we really want to make sure is correct absolutely 100% of the time, we can put a higher confidence threshold on it to make sure that somebody puts eyeballs on it if it doesn't achieve that score. Now, very straightforward here. All I can do at this point, now that I eyeball it, is to look at that and say $50 is correct. I want to hit the validate button and move on. But there's a couple different things I want to show in here from an extraction perspective before we do that. So the next thing I do want to talk about, though, is maybe just some of the other examples that we have here. So invoices here, very straightforward, information pulled out. We've got multi-page invoice. We're pulling all the information out of here. And also just want to focus on the fact that we do have some visual indicators on the preview on the right-hand side to let the user know where this data comes from. So if I click into this invoice number field, you'll see it highlights 26671. If I tab down to invoice date, the highlight moves through here, net 60, subtotal, tax amount. And as you just saw there, when I tab to fields that appear on different pages or different parts of the page, the system will scroll or change pages accordingly. Now, some other neat features that we have here are just the ability to give the user easy ways to put data into the system. Now, let's say, for instance, that this document actually did have a PO number that we wanted to capture. Let's just pretend it's the zip code here. A single click on that value in the preview will grab that piece of text and shoot it into this field. If we want to capture larger collections of data, like an address or a paragraph of something, maybe for like terms and conditions or notes, I could draw a box around a larger group of text and it'll put all that information to this field as well. This isn't really a great example for PO number here, but we had to have the ability to set up a multi-line field if we wanted to show something a little bit larger. And then the last thing I want to talk about here is just the ability to do things like excuse me, line item extraction. So I can click the table button up here. It'll take me to a different field where I can see the information that's being extracted. Now I've got the ability to do the same thing as I did on the previous page where I can click around to the different fields, or I can even do some nice things here, like click on the checkbox to give me a little bit of a green bar effect to show, just to allow me to read through this a little bit better if I've got a very wide document. So let me go back to this screen, and what I want to do next is just move this document to the next stage of the workflow. So I'm going to hit the validate button. It'll give me a little pop-up message saying, are you sure you want to proceed? And I can obviously turn this off once I understand how the system works, and I'll hit OK. Now what the system's going to do then is send that document on its way, and it'll take me to the list of batches that are awaiting my attention. So this is a demo environment, so we've got a lot of different things in here. So what's going on now behind the scenes, though, is the system's going to take those documents, pass them back into the UiPath workflow. UiPath will then start to take all the information that was fed back into it, and then start to read the information out of the export file that we create. And now you'll see that we've got this fake ERP system that I talked about before. So we're launching this little page here, and we're going to start having the robot or the RPA process fill out these individual fields. So in a moment or so, we'll see it reading that information out of the XML file and then populating these fields individually. So sometimes this takes a little bit of time for demo purposes. We do share this environment with some other coworkers, so sometimes we're competing here.
Thanks, Sean. And I think this I think it was great, detailed enough for you guys to understand the capacity and the capabilities of the system, and seeing now how it will be interacting with the UI path. It just in the let me share back again. In the interest of time, I just wanted to show how a complex processing. So imagine now that you're implementing this for a line-by-line extraction of a live complex environment, and we're going to show you now the actual demo of UiPath working with a live ERP. Close this out. Live ERP, and seeing how it actually goes line by line and chooses which lines should be applied to the PO. So with this being said, let me just go in and take a look at it. So this is an invoice being received. It has a lot of lines, total of $23,000. So what we're going to see now is basically person logs and chooses to jump UiPath. So UiPath is just going to go into your ERP and sign in just like a person is going to do it every day. Now we added this just to make sure that we have a PO as we were doing the demo. Now it's going to start clicking through and finding the supplier, just like a person is doing today. Extracting all this information has been extracted, like Sean's expressed while we're using Episoft, right? Now it's going to look at the PO, and then really quickly extracted the table that it's below. It found the lines that matched to the invoice. It matched them, it clicked on them, and it processed the voucher. So as you can see, the process is accelerated exponentially. So something that in this case could take several minutes, 10 minutes, it's now taking seconds. So it's something that really provides speed and processing productivity. So as now, of course, this is a Oracle environment. It's just going through specific process to get the voucher completed. But the whole process here, and I just wanted to give you a sense that this technology, UiPath, can really interact with any ERP, any application, and really anything out there that we want to work with. Let's continue. At the end, what this is going to do is that it takes in all the processing. If it was successful and it found all the lines, it found the PO, is now going to be sending out notifications to the team so that we can have a log on exactly what happened, if the processing was done correctly, if the vendor and PO was found. There's many rules that go into building this, including if the vendor isn't there, there is going to be an issue. If the vendor exists, but the PO doesn't exist and doesn't match the vendor, is going to be an issue. If the PO doesn't have enough funds, or the lines or there's a discrepancy, we're going to have issues. So it's, devil's in the details, but, I think it's a really quick explanation of what you can achieve. So moving forward, I just wanted to talk about the key takeaways of the session today. So one, have realistic expectations, right? 60 to 80% touchless invoice processing, it's really achievable, not 100%. There's always going to be your low-end vendors that there's no reason why to do a really detailed automation to them. We're going to be able to accelerate the processing of those vendors, but there is a very likely scenario where there's going to be human interaction. Now, as we can see, with the implementation of Episoft and UiPath, with the expectations, you will be able to accelerate at least 50% of the processing of invoices of vendors that are not 100% automated. Moving forward, and I think it's really critical to understand that the investment will be directly proportional to the complexity of your current process. So if you want to do three-way match at the line level, it's very different than if you just want to do extraction of header level information from every invoice and do the automation of it. It's just that the process will have much more exceptions and many more scenarios and additional complexities that will require additional effort and investment to get it done. Then you should expect a short implementation timeline. You know, some of the solutions I know sometimes takes years, but in this case, we have seen as short as 3 months from the moment you get started to the moment you go live. And in the more complex solutions, you do go live with some scenarios, but you end up with a full solution completed by 6 months. And we usually see very quick paybacks, 12 months or under. And then it depends on how many scenarios you want to add and you want to automate through this process. And I think that as everybody's looking for automation going forward, they should be looking at flexible, agile technology. It's not something that only works for this use case, not something that only works for this, because you are going to end up with a wide range of solutions out there to try to automate everything. And this is where we believe that this is a great tool to get that done. And as how to position the business case for AP automation, I think it's important it's not just cost savings, it's increased accuracy, it's reduced backlog, it's increased visibility, looking at, where are your expenses every single day, what's coming in, where it is, and you can really quickly pull the information that is out there, reduce accruals as it relates to the end of your month, because you have all the data in and quick. And just to make sure that we give something back, if you're interested in understanding if this is something for you, we would like to offer a very quick assessment on your AP optimization. So we would basically gather the information, volumetric data of what you're doing today, how much is PO, non-PO, how many exceptions do you think you're going to be using, what is your org chart, and how many invoices and volumes do you think you have and you would like to automate, and then really take a look at helping you build a business case on this. So before we get into last minute questions, I just want to have our fourth polling question, if you would be interested in doing a AP optimization assessment with us.
We'll just give them a couple of minutes to answer that, and then we'll share that information with you after today, Eduardo, and the rest of the team. So for anyone who would like to do that would be great. You can schedule your complimentary AP optimization assessment. And I know we're getting to the end of our time. So audience, if you do have any other questions, please put them in the chat area now so that we can get to them, because we have only about 3 minutes. I'm going to end this now. And like I said, I'll share it with you later on, Eduardo.
Thanks.
Sure.
So anybody has any questions that we would like to answer before?
Yeah. And while we potentially get questions, Eddie, I just wanted to remind everyone that we have 2 more sessions coming on similar related topics. One is at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and it's going to be about benchmarking, going beyond just AP. We're also going to talk about benchmarking in the record to report and in the order to cash function. And then we also have a session at 5 p.m. with Eduardo, where we're going to talk about RPA in more detail, specifically UiPath. And, that's more for companies that are already in the process of getting started and having issues with scaling RPA and looking to scale their automation program. So that's at 5 p.m. today.
And I know, so one of the questions here is just, if you're going to share your deck, and I'll just let the audience know that we have recorded this, so it will be available to all of our members in the members only area of our website. If there's someone else that would like to get in touch with anyone at the Oxys team, I'm sure that they would be happy to go through anything or perhaps even share that deck with you. So you just need to reach out, and we are happy to help in any way that we can. Since I don't see any other questions, Fabiana, thank you for adding in and letting them know that there will be other presentations. I think it'll just be so helpful. Automation is just unbelievable and all that it can do. When I saw that information just coming off of one invoice into another, Eduardo, quite honestly, I thought that you were typing it in and I was wondering what was happening because it didn't look like you were doing anything. So to just pull that information that quickly really is amazing to me. Automation blows my mind. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you so much. I think, our members have told us that they really would like to understand how technology is working. So to give this presentation and let them understand how it works, I think was just terrific. So thank you for taking the time to do that. And to the audience, I'm just going to say thank you for joining. I'm sure that you received some great information. With that, I'm going to say this does conclude the workshop, and have a great rest of your day. Bruce Alberts is asking, how about PDF version of deck instead of a whole video?
Yeah, we can send the PDF to everyone that wants it. We just need their emails.
Okay.
So yeah, if Angela, if you can send me Bruce's email, I'll make sure to get it over to him and to Tom.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And anyone else in the audience that would like that same thing, please also just let us know, and we're happy to give you whatever information you're looking for. Again, Oxys team, you are a wonderful partner. You're fantastic at what you do. I appreciate you joining us today. And for everyone, have a great rest of your day. This does conclude our session.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.